Well, we are in big trouble, folks. This could be the end of the road for the other side and a lot of other independent media in Australia too. And some people say it could be the end of the road for free speech and democracy all up. The Albanese Labor government's new MAD laws, the Misinformation and Disinformation laws, they will see us shut down. Not for anything we've said, or we might say, just for what we could say in the future. Kind of like a Tom Cruise pre-crime, if you like.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Marks. Give the man his hand.
The future can be seen.
You're arresting individuals who have broken no law.
But they will.
The fact that you prevented it from happening doesn't change the fact that it was going to happen.
The system can't be wrong.
No, Minority Report. The system can't be wrong. Your channel's being shut down, Mr. Curry. Sorry, but we at YouTube can't put ourselves at risk of massive fines from your tiny little nation at the bottom of the earth. So no political content or commentary is allowed on YouTube anymore. See ya. Now, that would be awful for us and for the good people like you who watch this show, because you realise the mainstream media, the ABC and our major political parties are feeding you on a steady diet of PR bulldust. But it's a very, very good outcome for the establishment. And it's exactly what they want and why they are doing this. It's good for the Labor Green Party and it's good for the Liberal National Party. It's very, very bad for all the minority parties and independents on the right and on the left. It's good for all the big mainstream old media companies, but it's very bad for independent media channels like us and anyone like you who wants to write or express themselves freely on social media. Which may explain why, even though this is the most illiberal, dangerous, free speech annihilating legislation to come before our parliament in decades, our mainstream media is hardly talking about it. And the Liberal Party opposition is so far opposing it with all the force of a wet blanket wrapped in a soggy lettuce leaf. The fight is on for our survival, folks. And it feels like we're on our own. It's David versus Goliath, and we are not Goliath in that little analogy. There's only one big guy in this fight that's on our side, and that's Elon Musk. He rightly labelled the government's proposal to fine social media companies 5% of their global revenue, which might be almost all of their global profits, in fact. He labelled that fascist. 5% of their global revenue. That's what Albo wants to fine social media companies that break his little law. You know, I love this country with all my heart, but I'm a humble guy and realistic. Who the hell does Albo think we are? Australia is not significant to these companies. We're tiny in the scheme of things. Elon has evil authoritarian socialists destroying Brazil to worry about. Fighting evil authoritarian socialists in Australia comes a distant second. Albo hit back, like Elon Musk would give a rat's, in an opinion editorial in the Murdoch newspapers. My message to Mr. Musk, I work for Aussies, not you. See the PR manipulation here, folks? Playing on your patriotism? Well, actually, you don't work for Aussies, Albo. You seem to be working only for Canberra and the bureaucrat class. You seem to be working to centralise power for your mates. Elon Musk seems to be the one working to defend Australians' freedom of expression. He's the one working for real Aussies. Albo then goes on to spew a whole load of Kamala nice words about protecting kids online, which nobody, of course, can disagree with, because he thinks we're so stupid that we're going to fall for that trick, muddying the waters with really nice stuff to sneak their clampdown on free speech through, disguised as keeping us safe, and even better, protecting the little children. It's so predictable and pathetic, but sadly, it'll probably work. You see, all this is happening because the establishment is angry at us. They're angry that they didn't get their racist clause in our constitution last year with the voice vote. They don't like that you were smart enough to see through their little trick and they couldn't use their corporate mates to brainwash you. They're scared they're going to one day have to hold an investigation into the appalling mismanagement of COVID and the destruction of hundreds of billions of dollars of our national wealth and small business, all for nothing. The destruction of your civil liberties and the denial of your right to freely enter and exit your own country and your states. They don't ever want to have to be accountable for those gigantic mistakes and crimes of 2020-2022. They do not want a free and independent media at all because they can't control it. This is great for Nine Media's TV and newspaper and radio station empire and the ABC and all the big newspapers because they'll get their power back as the only media allowed to speak freely because they will be exempted from these laws. So will academics and so will most government officials. Surprise! It's going to be great. It'll be just like China. The out-of-touch Canberra bureaucrats who voted for The Voice, 60-40, while the rest of the country voted against The Voice, 40-60, will finally be able to make the rest of us do what we are told like we're supposed to. So this is why you won't be hearing much about this in the media, folks, except maybe polite discussions about the details of the new laws. The Shadow Communications Minister, David Coleman, appeared on Sky News' Sunday Agenda show, and he had this to say about the rehashed bill.
And then they've come out with a bill which has a lot of issues. Now, it hasn't been to our shadow cabinet yet, and we'll go through our normal processes, but there's a lot of problems with this bill.
A shadow minister is the opposition spokesperson on a particular thing. They're supposed to shadow the government minister and keep a close eye on them. And while in opposition, they are, supposed to oppose most things, and at least put the opposing arguments. David Coleman is Peter Dutton's man on the front line of the Conservative fight against this horrible totalitarian law. Only he's nowhere near the front line. He's been all but invisible this week, except for that appearance on Sky. He talked a little bit tough, but he shouldn't even be entertaining this law or considering it in shadow cabinet. It needs to be taken to the dump and buried. I thought Albo was smart enough to bury it after its first version got absolutely hammered by every man and his dog months ago. But that was my mistake, thinking Albo was smart. Oh no, this is the man who brought you The Voice. He loves flogging dead horses and very bad commie ideas, as Mr. Coleman told Sky News this week.
The Minister put this bill out in June last year. We had 4 months when pretty much everyone in Australia came out and said it was a grotesque piece of legislation, from the Civil Liberties Council to the Human Rights Commission to more than 20,000 ordinary Australians who put in submissions.
Could you see the crossbench supporting it? Because it sounds like you're not going to support it.
Well, look, I think if you look at the bill, so the minister's had 10 months and she comes out in section 68 of this bill with a power to personally order misinformation investigations.
What? I'm sorry, what did he just say? Could you please repeat that, Mr. Coleman?
For power to personally order public hearings into misinformation events. This is extraordinary in a democracy. In this bill, Andrew, if you're an academic, something you say basically can't be misinformation. But if you're an ordinary Australian who disagrees with an academic, it can be misinformation. And we in the coalition will always stand up for free speech. We did that last time. We fought this bill very hard. It had to be withdrawn. And we'll certainly fight hard for free speech this time as well.
So Communications Minister Michelle Roland would personally have the power to decide what's misinformation and what isn't. Oh well, this is such an improvement. Marvellous work, Michelle, Albo, Tanya, Jim, the whole team over there at the People's Communist Party of Labor Australia. Excellent job. I've got to admit, I'm very, very troubled by Peter Dutton's authoritarian streak coming to the fore a bit here too. He likes surveillance and policing. He needs to slap this thing down hard to send a very clear message to the electorate that he will not tolerate or even entertain the slightest discussion of such mad misinformation and disinformation laws. And I'm very sad to say that we've not seen that from Peter Dutton yet. Dutton has in the past supported the e-safety commissioner, the age limits for teens on social media, all sorts of illiberal ideas that sound nice, but turn the government and the state more and more into our parents and guardians rather than our servants, meddling in stuff that parents should be sorting out for kids and adults sorting out for themselves. So I'm not feeling safe, guys. I need a safe space. I don't feel like the Liberal Party has got our back or your back one little bit, I'm afraid. And it brings me no joy to say that. We invited David Coleman on this show, but his advisor politely declined. This show has a big audience and it offers them the chance to speak at length. But no, they wanted to hold their fire. Well, that might be strategically wise. I don't know. I think this needs loud and clear, unequivocal stance based purely on the vibe of the thing. You don't need time to consider all the details. But maybe they want to use it as a weapon closer to the election, drag it out. That could be smart. Anyway, I don't know. It doesn't matter what they think, what I think rather, since this show won't exist if this law goes through. But we're not going down without a fight. Shadow Communications Minister David Coleman is a very nice man, I'm sure, and a smart one. He is the Federal Liberal Party member for the southwestern Sydney seat of Banks. That's a very unsafe seat for a Liberal member. It's a traditional Labor seat and it remains pretty marginal. So already Mr Coleman has little incentive to be very much on the right on all this. He has an arts law degree from the University of New South Wales, a notoriously left-wing place. I know, I went there too. And he was the president of the student union. So I hope his union days have put a bit of fire in his belly and he knows how to fight. Because although it may suit the establishment folk for this bill to go through, the people of Australia are furious about it, and we intend making sure it is properly opposed while we still can. So we'll be keeping an eye on Mr Coleman and Mr Dutton and all the Liberal wet lefties in the party who might like government to have nanny state power, and all of the right-wingers in the party who get a bit too authoritarian at times and like the big surveillance state idea. We'll be watching you closely on this show. We have no choice. This bill is an existential threat to us. Private internet access is terrific. With all the big government clampdown on online speech lately, you are taking a big risk if you don't have a VPN. That's a virtual private network. And it blocks spying eyes in big government or big corporate from seeing your IP address and hacking into your data. Now, it's super easy and cheap to set it up. It's not technical. Even I could do it. And even if you already have a VPN, you should consider switching to these guys, because since I have had zero reduction in my internet speeds, which was a bit of a problem with the one I was using before. And I don't even have to think about this one. It's just on automatically whenever I turn on my computer. And even better news is that the other side has secured a special deal for you, which will get you set up for 83% off the usual price and with 4 months free. And get this, that brings the price down to less than $3 a month. It is absolutely amazing. So jump on it now, sign up to our special deal and help support us by supporting our sponsors. piavpn.com/otherside. piavpn.com/otherside. If you like that clip, there's more where that came from in our full show, The Other Side. You can watch it right here, the latest episode. And please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button right here or down here. And remember to click that notification bell too. It all helps. Join us and become part of The Other Side.